It was a warm summer evening when Emma and Liam, a young couple who had recently moved into a quiet house near the edge of the forest, decided to sleep with their bedroom window open. The air outside was thick and heavy, and they hoped the cool night breeze would make the heat bearable. The clock on the nightstand ticked softly, and the forest beyond their window whispered with life. Crickets, rustling leaves, the occasional hoot of an owl. Everything felt perfectly ordinary. At around 2:47 a.m., Emma stirred from her sleep. A faint sound reached her ears, a delicate scratching, like nails brushing gently against glass. Still half asleep, she blinked into the darkness, trying to locate the source. Probably a tree branch, she murmured, rolling over. But the sound came again, slightly louder this time. A slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap against the window pane. Liam awoke to her soft gasp. He sat up, squinting toward the open window. The curtains swayed lazily in the moonlight, and beyond them, the forest seemed still. He stood, walked over, and peered outside. Only the long shadows of trees stretching across their backyard. Nothing unusual. He chuckled to calm her nerves. "It's just the wind," he said, closing the curtains slightly. Emma nodded, embarrassed at her own fear. They settled back into bed, their breaths evening out once more. Yet, as sleep began to pull them under again, the faint sound returned, softer now, almost rhythmic. From outside the window, a pair of unseen eyes seemed to linger, watching. The breeze carried with it something colder than air, something aware. Unseen by either of them, a faint silhouette shifted behind the trees, standing perfectly still. The open window fluttered quietly, like a silent mouth breathing in the dark, waiting for the next night when the whispering would begin. The following night, the air was cooler, but Emma couldn't shake off the strange feeling from before. Liam reassured her, saying, "You worry too much. Nothing's out there." They laughed it off and left the window open again. The moonlight spilled across their room, making the white curtains shimmer softly. Outside, the forest was quiet, almost too quiet. Around midnight, Emma awoke suddenly. Her eyes fluttered open, and she felt the room colder than before. The curtains swayed slowly, and the air carried a faint murmur, so soft she thought she imagined it. Then it came again, a whisper. Her name, Emma. Her blood ran cold. She turned to Liam, asleep beside her, his chest rising and falling peacefully. The whisper came again, closer now, as if someone were right beside the bed, breathing the word into her ear. "Emma." She shot up, heart pounding, and looked toward the window. It was wide open, the curtain billowing inward. The whisper stopped. The room fell into deep silence, broken only by her shallow breaths. Liam stirred, rubbing his eyes. "What is it?" he asked groggily. "I heard someone," she stammered, pointing to the window. He listened, but the night outside was still. No voices, no wind, nothing. After a long moment, he sighed. "You must have dreamed it." He got up, closed the window, and locked it. Emma finally lay back down, but it took hours before her eyes drifted shut. In her dreams, she stood by the window, a cold hand resting on her shoulder. A figure behind her whispered her name again, but this time it sounded exactly like her own voice. At dawn, Emma woke to find muddy footprints on the floor, small, wet, and leading from the window straight to her side of the bed and back out again. By the third night, fear had crept into the corners of their once peaceful home. Emma convinced Liam to keep the windows shut, but unease lingered like a heavy fog. Even during the day, the air inside the house felt unnaturally still, as though the walls themselves were listening. Their cat, Milo, refused to enter the bedroom. Whenever they tried to carry him in, his fur would bristle, and he'd hiss at the window before darting out of the room. Liam laughed nervously, trying to lighten the mood. Maybe you just saw a bug. But Emma wasn't convinced. She felt something watching her. When she walked past the window, she could almost sense eyes following her movement. Unseen, patient, waiting. That night, as the clock neared 3 a.m., they both woke to a faint sound. It wasn't outside this time. It came from inside the room, the same slow scratching they'd heard before, but now against the inside of the window glass. Liam grabbed a flashlight, scanning every corner. Nothing. Yet the noise continued, as if something invisible dragged its nails softly over the pane. Determined to prove it wasn't real, Liam set up a small camera facing the window before they went back to bed. "We'll see what's really going on," he said. Emma barely slept, her mind filled with the whispering voice from the night before. The next morning, with pale faces and trembling hands, they played back the footage. For the first few hours, nothing. Then, at 3:12 a.m., the window latch lifted by itself. The glass slid open slowly. A thin, pale hand reached in, fingers long, veins dark, and then froze midway. The image glitched, and when it cleared, the hand was gone. Emma dropped the camera, whispering, "That wasn't a dream." And on the window pane, now closed tight, faint fingerprints appeared from inside. The next morning, as Emma tried to calm herself with coffee, there was a knock at the door. Standing outside was Mrs. Keller, their elderly neighbor. Her face looked pale, eyes sunken yet sharp with concern. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," she said softly, "but I couldn't sleep last night. I saw your bedroom light flicker, and that window of yours was open again." Emma froze. "You saw that?" she asked. Mrs. Keller nodded gravely. "Child, you shouldn't keep that window open. That house has history." Liam, half listening from the living room, scoffed. "Let me guess, ghost stories?" But Mrs. Keller didn't laugh. "Not stories. Facts. A girl lived there before you. 20 years ago. She disappeared one night from that very room." Emma's hands trembled around her coffee cup. "What happened to her?" "They found her days later in the woods. Eyes gone. The police called it an animal attack, but no animal leaves doors and windows locked from the inside," Mrs. Keller whispered. Her words hung in the air like cold breath. Emma felt her chest tighten. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about the missing girl. When Liam went to sleep, she searched online but found nothing. No records, no name, no trace. It was as if the girl had been erased from history. Then, as she cleaned the floor later, her broom caught on a loose wooden board under the dresser. Curious, she pried it up and found a bundle of old newspaper clippings, yellowed with age. Her hand shook as she unfolded one. "Local girl missing, vanished from bedroom overnight." In the photo, the girl smiled innocently, standing near a familiar window, the very same one in their room, wide open behind her. At that moment, a sudden chill ran through Emma's spine. The window latch clicked, and the curtain moved, though every door in the house was shut. The storm began just after midnight. Rain lashed against the house, the thunder rolling endlessly through the forest. Emma and Liam sat in bed, watching flashes of lightning dance across the ceiling. Every now and then, Emma's eyes flickered toward the window. It was locked, sealed tight, but she still felt the air around it breathe, as if the night itself pressed its face against the glass, waiting to be let in. The power went out. The room plunged into darkness except for brief bursts of lightning. In one flash, Emma swore she saw something outside, a tall shadow by the tree line, still and watching. She gasped, clutching Liam's arm. "Someone's out there," she whispered. He rushed to the window, peering through the glass. The rain blurred everything, but for a split second, he too saw it. A figure standing motionless, drenched in rain, smiling faintly. Then lightning struck again, and the figure vanished. Suddenly, the window creaked. The latch turned on its own with a soft metallic click. The pane began to open, inch by inch, though the wind was blowing inward, not out. Papers fluttered off the nightstand. Curtains whipped violently. Emma screamed, rushing forward to slam it shut, but the air that met her face was freezing, suffocating. For a moment, time felt wrong. The thunder seemed distant, the wind muffled. A whisper slithered through the room. Her name, carried in a voice identical to her own. Emma. She stumbled backward as Liam grabbed the frame and forced the window closed. Instantly, the noise stopped. The room fell silent again. When the police arrived an hour later, they searched the area but found no footprints, no intruder. The officer simply shrugged. No signs of anyone out there. That night, Liam dreamed he stood outside in the storm, staring through the same window. Inside, Emma slept peacefully as he whispered her name, his breath fogging the glass from the outside. That night, the air in the house felt heavier than ever, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Emma couldn't sleep. Every sound, every creak in the floor made her jump. Liam tried to comfort her, saying, "It's just the storm. Everything's fine." But deep down, even he didn't believe that anymore. At exactly 3 a.m., the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. The air turned icy, their breaths visible in faint white mist. Emma pulled the blanket tighter around herself when the sound came, the tapping again. Soft at first, then harder, faster, like someone drumming impatiently on the glass. Liam sat up, grabbing the flashlight, and shone it toward the window. The light flickered once, then died completely. "Damn batteries," he muttered. But before he could move, the window burst open violently, slamming against the wall. The curtains billowed like living things. A freezing wind howled through the room. In the pale moonlight, a figure climbed through, tall, thin, skin ghostly white. Emma screamed. Liam grabbed the bedside lamp and hurled it toward the intruder. The bulb shattered, sparks flying. For a brief moment, the room lit up, and what they saw made their blood run cold. The figure's face was Emma's. Her same eyes, same lips, but with an inhuman stillness. No warmth, no life. It smiled faintly, tilting its head, and whispered in a voice that echoed like wind in a cave. "You left it open for me." Liam lunged forward, swinging the broken lamp, but the figure vanished, melting into the cold air like smoke. Silence fell, except for the soft rattle of the open window. Then, behind Emma, the mirror cracked on its own. In its reflection, two faces stared back, hers and another, smiling just over her shoulder. A drop of blood rolled down from the cracked glass and hit the floor. The night after the attack, the house was eerily silent. Emma hadn't slept at all. Liam had insisted he'd stay up and watch over her, but exhaustion had pulled him under around 2 a.m. The shattered lamp lay in the corner, and the broken mirror still stood against the wall, reflecting only fragments of the room. The air smelled faintly of iron, the trace of blood that no amount of cleaning could remove. The digital clock glowed 2:58 a.m. Emma sat upright, staring at the window, still locked from earlier. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. Outside, the forest was dark and unmoving. Then the lock clicked. Once, twice, and slowly, without any wind, the window opened on its own. "Liam," she whispered, shaking him awake. But he didn't stir. His breathing was deep and steady, almost too steady. She turned toward him, whispering his name again, but something was wrong. His eyes were open, empty, staring straight at the ceiling. Before she could scream, he sat up, calmly, without a word. His movements were slow, mechanical, as if someone else were pulling invisible strings. He stood, walked past her, and went straight to the open window. "Liam, stop," she cried, grabbing his arm, but his skin felt icy cold. He turned his head slightly toward her, and in that moment, she saw it, a faint smile that wasn't his. Then, without hesitation, he climbed through the window and vanished into the darkness outside. The police came at dawn. No footprints, no trace. His shoes were still under the bed. The window was open again. Emma replayed the footage from the security camera, trembling. At 2:59 a.m., she saw Liam walk to the window, whisper something she couldn't hear, then climb out, face calm, eyes lifeless. The final frame showed the window closing by itself. Weeks later, new tenants moved in. Every night, around 3 a.m., they hear faint knocking on the glass, gentle, rhythmic, and always followed by a whisper.